Hello everyone and welcome back to the Premiere Pro Assistant Editor series. This is the final episode. We're finally going to be finishing up today. Thanks everyone for sticking in there. I hope you've been learning a lot. And as you can hear, my mic has been fixed since the last episode. I do apologize for that, but we're back on track. Got a new stand, so everything's good. So where we left off last was we were learning how to create our multicams, get our clips into them here, and then get them onto the timeline in the daymaster. So we replaced the clips that were like this in the sync map, where they were two cameras on top of each other, and then basically we turn them into multicams and then bring them into the daymaster onto the timeline. So I'm here on the last clip. So basically, as you can see, I have some merged clips over here. If I select this, they're merged. This is merged. This is a multicam. This one's merged. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work on this last one right here. I've got some homeowners. As you can see, I have homeowner interview number 1 right here. So I'm just going to create the last one, and then we're going to move on to the next step. So now we've got 140701, homeowner interview 02. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go to the starting point of it, delete it, and put that into our homeowner, same spot. And then I'm just going to move my homeowner interview merged clip, which came into the project window, right into our interviews bin. So now we're at the final step. Now we can start organizing everything. This is actually more or less the easiest part. So what I like to do is I like to just go straight from the beginning, and I have sort of like a very quick rundown of how I like to clean up my daymaster. First, I'm going to start by deselecting all the audio tracks by holding Shift and clicking. So as you can see, if I hold Shift and click here, it disables all of those. I'm going to do the same thing for the ins and outs, because I'm not going to worry about the audio. I'm just going to worry about the video. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press down to go to the end of the clip, press in, down, back 1 frame, out, and then I press apostrophe, or whatever your default is for extracting, which is right here. So if you don't have that mapped to something by default, it's the apostrophe. So what I do is I basically just go through, and I've just got a little bit of audio here. I'm going to listen to it.
We got time. There'll be more screws. Yeah,
I don't hear anything important, so I'm going to deem it acceptable to get rid of. And I'm just going to continue that pattern of extracting, and I'm basically like cleaning up the daymaster, so it's just a little neater. There's not all these gaps. It's a little easier to just jump from one thing to the next. So again, it's down, in, down, back 1 frame, out point, apostrophe. You can sort of start to do this pretty fast once you get to it. As you can see, I've sort of got the flow down from doing this for hours and hours on end. And what you want to make sure is that your video tracks are selected so that you are able to go through and just select the video tracks, and it won't go to any extra audio. Let's see what we've got here. Don't need that. And whenever you see a little bit of tail audio, just make sure you listen to it first. I saw that that clip was ended, so I knew that one was okay to get rid of. And if the audio starts before the video, like right here actually, it's usually okay to get rid of because the camera's not rolling yet, so it's probably just sound starting before the audio. You'll sort of get into that rhythm, like I said, in time. So again, I'm just going through, getting rid of all that extra audio that the editor basically is not going to need to look at. We've got our multicams here, and like I said, it goes pretty fast once you get used to it. Don't need any of that audio there. Looks like the video actually starts before the audio, so I'm just going to get rid of that extra bit of video there. It's probably not very useful. And it looks like we've got our B-roll shots here at the end. Now, I'm only doing this because some people are still in 2017, but there is a new feature in 2018 for closing all the gaps. So you can pretty much just do what I'm doing, and it closes all the gaps. But the reason I sort of do this is still, even though that new feature is there, is I like to get rid of that extra bit of audio. So every time the editor presses up or down, it just goes to the next clip. So you can totally do it with the close gap function that's now in 2018, but I still like to do this. I like to also be able to just look over everything and get myself familiar with the timeline. So that's going to be all up to you though, whether or not you want to use that tool. For this B-roll stuff, it would be really handy, but I'm still in 2017 actually, because I have some projects that I'm worried about updating in case there's any errors. As we all know, whenever a new version comes out, there tends to be something that can always go wrong. So, all right, that's all done. So like I said, we have a much cleaner timeline now. I'm even just going to drop this one clip down to the first layer so we don't have any unnecessary extras. And now all we have to do is basically go through and put everything into their own sort of sequences and timelines. So basically what we want to do is we want to organize our scenes, our interviews, and our B-roll. So we have scenes here, we have our interviews, we have our B-roll, and we have our source footage and all that, and we have a very clean daymaster now. So what I like to do is I like to organize the scenes by using the bins, and the interviews by using the bins, and then I like to use the daymaster to organize my B-roll. So let's get started by creating a new sequence for our attic scene. So I'm just going to select our 2 attic scenes and make sure they're selected. I'm going to drag these into create new item. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring this now into a new sequence for me. And what I'm going to do is rename that sequence into 140701 attic scene. I'm just going to remove the number because these are going to be all of the attic scenes. So next what we want to do is we want to go through our bathroom. We want to click and drag that into new clip again, and then just rename that bathroom scene. There we go. Going to collapse that one, and then I'm going to go to our open house. I'm going to bring those into their own. Just going to rename that open house. I'll just call it open house scenes, actually. There we go. So now basically it's very easy for the editor, instead of opening each multicam and going through it, he can see all 4 or all 3 or however many there are all right next to each other. And it's pretty easy to go through. Lastly, we've got our interviews, and this one we're going to do a little differently. I remember that Jay started the day off, and then the homeowners had their interviews first, so I'm just going to bring all of Jay's into a new timeline. And what I'm just going to do is I'm going to name this entire sequence 140701 interviews, because we're going to have all of them in there at once. I'm going to move all of Jay's interviews up about 50 seconds. I'm going to move it up another 50. Want a little bit of space. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Control-T or Command-T if I'm on a Mac, which creates a title. I'm going to fill up that space. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 140701 J interviews. I'm just going to center that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Alt and drag this to the end and create another title basically without having the same properties. I'm going to rename it to homeowner interviews. And again, I'm just going to center that. Whoop. Don't want to rescale it. And then I'm going to bring in the 2 homeowner interviews. So now basically the editor, I'm sorry, I didn't see my recording thing was still down here. So it's basically now the editor can see where the 2 are separated. And what we're going to do is when we bring all of this into our master project for the editor to work on, what he can do is basically he can jump from each one. And if he were to only enable track 2, he could quickly jump past all these clips here and he can see, okay, the homeowner interviews are here, the Jay's interviews are here. It's from this date, 140701. So that's a pretty handy way for people to just see through all that. And what I'm going to do lastly, I think, is I'm just going to organize this into merged clips for the interviews. The only thing I'm not going to select is the sequence. I'm just going to drag all the merged clips into there. So now basically I have the merge clip separated from the sequence, so it's not so messy. Cool. So next thing we want to do is we want to start organizing our B-roll, and then we'll get back to cleaning up some of the sequences. So I'm just going to close all those extra sequences for now and just go back to my daymaster. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and look for any B-roll, such as right here. There's no audio for this clip, but it's B-roll. I'm just going to play it through. Let's see if it's just... All right, that looks like it's just the cameraman setting up. So I'm just going to delete that. I'm just going to go through. Here's another one. Looks like it's the same thing. This happens pretty often, actually. We'll just have some false takes. So just going to go through and try and find some B-roll. Looks like we got some here potentially. All right, cool. So we got some like family moments probably to cut to for in the cut in between the open house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to B-roll. Create a new bin, 140701. And I'm going to just call it family moments or something like that. And I'm just going to take these two clips and bring them into it. So that's good. So now it's basically just going through and finding anything that's not a merged clip. Looks like he's just getting set up. They didn't have his audio on, so I'll just get rid of that. Here are the interviews, so I won't be needing that. All right, and here's definitely where we have some B-roll. So I'm just going to scrub through this. Okay, so it looks like we've got some beauty shots. So it looks like the house has been renovated. This is basically the end of the show. And what we want to do is we're going to organize this into 140701 bathroom beauties. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select this clip, and I'm going to go through. See all these. I'm going to go until I don't see the bathroom anymore. So there we've got some exterior stuff. So now I'm just going to select everything from the clip I have selected up to where it is. And I'm just going to bring those into bathroom beauties. Looks like we've got some exterior shots of the house. So I'm going to create another new bin and call it 140701 exterior beauties. Now, again, for every show, like whatever you categorize this as is going to be a little different. Looks like we've got some of that. So I'm going to bring that exterior into there. Looks like we've got another bathroom. Is this in the bathroom? Yep. That's this clip. So basically it's just going through and checking everything. So those are from the bathroom. Bring that into the bathroom beauties. Now for this last clip, looks like we've just got something from the attic. So that's good to have because we're going to do something special with that B-roll clip actually. So I'm going to call that 140701 attic EOD. Now earlier in the day, I saw them working on a clip from the attic. So right back over here. So what I'm going to do is I have my attic shot here, but what I'm also going to do is I'm going to open my scenes, go to my attic bin, then go to my attic sequence. And now this looks like a finishing shot, this one right here, of basically all the work that they did that day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that clip into the end here so that the editor can quickly, instead of going searching for through the bins, the attic EOD shot while he's doing match frames and making cuts, once he finishes that sequence, instead of going looking for that bin, he can actually jump straight to the end here and have that clip ready for him already. So that's a neat little thing to have. So basically that's it. We are done with creating our project. It's pretty straightforward, this part. It's just organizing, and it's going to be pretty different based on what show you're working on. So the last thing we need to do now is just basically import this project into the master project. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to open my master project. So I already have one made. And basically they go by this naming convention. So they go by like our project right now, I guess I'll go by that first. We have RMR 101 Davis, day 04, 140701. So it's basically the day that it was shot on. It's the 4th day of shooting. And then the master project is called a very similar thing, RMR 101 Davis master for the master project. And then instead of it being the day that it was shot, this date should be the date that you're working on. So the editor is typically in charge of this. Today is February 25th, 2018. So I called it 180225. If I worked on the edit tomorrow, like if the editor opens it and works on it tomorrow, he should name it 180226 and basically just like keep backups of each day of work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open that project. And as you can see, I already have some bins here. I have just RMR 101 Davis. I have scenes, interviews, B-roll, source footage, daymasters, and junk. And what I'm going to do is, for starters, I'm going to select my junk folder, and then I'm going to go to the media browser. I'm going to go to the same place where the other project is. And I'm going to now import that day04 into my junk folder. I'm going to do entire project. I'm going to do create folder for imported items and allow importing duplicate media. There we go. Okay. So now what we do is we basically organize this into all the scenes for the day. So I'm going to go into scenes. I'm going to create a new bin in the master project and call it 140701. And basically I just bring all the bins here into this one. And this is where you can sort of like, again, based on what show you're working on, you could sort of decide how this gets done. I'm going to now delete that bin because there's nothing else in it. And don't worry, deleting this bin does not delete the project bin. So it doesn't delete the bin from this project. It basically duplicated it. I'm going to go to the interviews. And I'm going to create a interviews bin 140701. I'm going to bring those merged clips into it. And then basically what we're going to have here is we're going to have another new sequence here. So I'm going to go to File, New Sequence. I'm going to make it basically the same thing, custom 1920 by 1080. Make it 23 frames per second, square, progressive, all that good stuff. I'm just going to call it RMR 101 Davis interviews. So this is going to typically contain all of the interviews. So I'm going to bring this 140701 interviews into that 140701 bin. I'm going to open it, select everything, copy it, close that sequence, and then paste it into the RMR 101 Davis interviews. So typically what's going to happen is you worked on this day of footage. Then if there's another day of footage, let's say they shot something on 140702, you would then do this whole process again, do all the merging, syncing, bring this project in, and you would put the 140702 sequence, you would copy the contents and paste it here. So it would look something basically like this. This is right here, the selected bits would be what you would have for 140702. Get rid of that. And basically, like the editor can go through again and select layer 2 and jump to each placeholder and see where everything is. So I'm just going to minimize this 140701, minimize these scenes. Next up, I'm going to delete these bins. Don't need them anymore. I'm going to now go to the B-roll and go into the B-roll bin in the master project, 140701, and bring in all of the B-roll here. Delete that. Source footage, same thing, 140701. Bring all that stuff into there, including the sync map. I'm gonna minimize this so it's just a little cleaner. Delete that bin, don't need it anymore. And then I just bring in my daymaster here. You don't need to create a new bin for that because the only thing that's going to live in here is sequences for the daymaster. Delete all that, and then you get ready for the next project. So guys, that is it. So thanks for sticking around. Email me if you have any questions. If you need any advice, I'll do the best that I can to accommodate you. So that's basically it, guys. So again, if you need to email me, my email address is crushvisuals@gmail.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on my Facebook page, Crush Visuals. And obviously just comment below. This video series hasn't extremely taken off per se, so I usually respond to the comments below. So feel free, and thanks again, guys, for watching, and I hope that you learned something. Bye-bye.